Hey, this is Dan Kidder with Sportsman's Warehouse. Today I want to go over some basics of clearing malfunctions. Now, I'm going to wad some panties here. I don't care if you ever learn, that a failure to fire is a type 1 malfunction, failure to extract is a type 2 malfunction, a failure to feed is a type 3 malfunction. I don't care if you ever know that. The thing is, if you get yourself into a defensive firearms encounter and your gun malfunctions, you need to be able to immediately act to get that malfunction cleared. We call this an immediate action drill. Doesn't matter that you can tell what type of malfunction it is. What matters is that you have trained in clearing malfunctions to the point where you'll be able to do it instinctively with very little thought to get the gun back in the fight. I've got a variety of guns here, and I'm going to induce some different malfunctions, and we're going to go over how you can clear those malfunctions. One issue you'll see, what they call a type 1 malfunction, is for some reason this gun doesn't fire. One of the most common reasons for that is you either haven't loaded a round into the chamber, nothing happens, or the magazine wasn't fully seated, and when you cycled the gun, nothing happened. Or the gun was fully loaded, but for some reason the magazine release got bumped, and the gun fires the first round, ejects that out, and does not load a second round. You're going to fix this very easily. You're going to tap the magazine. While you're doing that, you're going to invert the gun so that the firing port is aiming down. The ejection port is aiming down. That's going to allow gravity to take that round out. When you grab the slide, I like to grab it with the meat of my hand, 4 fingers over the top, and I want to rip that thing back like I'm trying to tear the slide right off. I'm going to get that bad round out, that good round in, bring the gun up, and continue the fight. Tap, rack, and fight. One of the issues that you'll see very frequently is if you are limp wristing the gun, if the gun is dirty, whatever reason you may get a round that does not extract. And it looks like that. It's called a stovepipe. You're going to fix this in exactly the same way. You're going to tap, rack, get back in the fight. Tap, rack, get back in the fight. Then the last type of malfunction that you may encounter is a little more difficult to fix. It's a little harder to create too. And the reality is, this double feed is something you're very seldom going to encounter with a handgun, which makes it even more important that you train around it. Why? If you're not going to see it very often, why would you want to train around it more? These other malfunctions are going to happen pretty frequently or pretty regularly in your training, and in that training you're going to clear them on a pretty regular basis. This one is very rare to have happen in training, let alone in a gunfight. So the odds that you're going to have a lot of experience clearing this malfunction are a lot lower. So you need to intentionally induce this malfunction so that you can practice it. And the way I went about doing that is I make sure that there's a round in the chamber, and then I put the magazine in and I try to load another round behind it. And this is called a double feed. So when I tap and rack, it didn't fix the problem. I've got to get that magazine out of there so that I can get that lodged round out of the way. I got to pull that magazine out. Look at that, everything fell right out the bottom, okay? I'm gonna get another magazine, I'm gonna get it into the gun, I'm gonna rack, and I'm gonna get back in the fight. Gunfighting is problem solving, so you've got to think through the problem. So if I have that issue, that magazine, when I push the magazine release button, may not drop, so I've got to rip that thing out. Get a new magazine, insert it, load it, and get back in the fight. Rip that magazine out. Now, depending on how many spare magazines you carry and what your loadout is, I always carry 2 spare magazines, and the reason is I've had magazines fail. I don't think I'm going to need 47 rounds of ammunition that I carry with me, but I've had magazines fail. So carrying a spare magazine is important, but I carry 2 in case one fails, or in case I have a malfunction like this where I have to throw that magazine away. If you're not willing to do that, as you pull that magazine out, take and stick it right here behind your pinky, and that way you can retain that magazine as you clear the malfunction, put it back in the gun, and get back in the fight. Practicing this frequently is an important skill that you need to learn. One of the things I recommend to all of my students is that they get themselves either some dummy rounds or some snap caps. They sell these snap caps at Sportsman's Warehouse. You can pick them up. And they will give you the ability to practice a lot of different things. Dry fire, loading your magazines until that becomes a skill that you develop, and then also clearing these malfunctions. So these are a real important training tool that I highly recommend every student get. Having malfunctions in a critical moment can mean the difference between life and death. Knowing how to clear those malfunctions, practicing clearing those malfunctions so that you can take immediate action to get back in the fight is a crucial skill that I highly recommend that you learn. This is Dan Kidder from Sportsman's Warehouse. Thank you for watching. Have fun, shoot straight, and be safe.